Hello and welcome to episode 266 of the Round Nintendo Podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Angel.
I am Kevin.
And I've got two words for you guys. Metroid Dread. Actually, there's more than that. There's Nickelodeon, there's Animal Crossing, there's Sora, there's Gang Beasts, there's GTA's, Advance Wars, there's Switch Online.
Oh my.
But Metroid Dread is the namesake of the episode, which we're calling And the E.M.M.I Goes To, not just because it's literally a game about avoiding Emmys as they go to you, but because it's a pun about an award, and it feels like this game's going to be winning some later this year, doesn't it? Like, it's a pretty good game, right?
Definitely deserves some. Sure.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Metroid Dread, and from there we have a whole host of fighting games that I think basically consumed your life, Angel, right? There's Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, there's Sora joining Smash, there's Gang Beasts, like I mentioned, plus we do have the Animal Crossing Direct, we do have Switch Online's pricing, we have some remake news. Timestamps for all of that is over at the blog post at ramtown.com for this episode. But one thing I did notice that's kind of weird is if you look at that list, like 99% of what we're talking about today is all happening in like a 6-week stretch. It's like the holiday season came a month early or something. Well, is it early? Let me ask you that. Because, like, I'm getting Best Buy Black Friday emails. Nintendo's gift guide was up like 10 days into October. When did the holiday start before Halloween? Like, am I crazy or is that normal now?
No idea.
Yeah, I can't say that's something I ever noticed when it started.
You never noticed that, like, when they're like, oh, look, snow and mittens and cocoa and Christmas lights
seen these
and,
ads
like...
yet?
Well, you've been spared then.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll just have to take your word for it, Jason.
Well, okay, let me ask you this then. When do you consider it to be, like, the holiday season? Like, Christmas time?
November 1st is when the season starts for me.
See, like, so why is everyone doing it in October? Because I agree. At least let Halloween have its moment.
But why is everybody doing what in October already?
Everyone's already promoting their holiday stuff. Like, it's already holiday sales and holiday gift guides and, like, Christmas decorations, like, in October. Like, why?
Capitalism, baby. Gotta get that money early.
All right. That's a good answer. Angel, when does it start for you? Because we're, like, on the cusp here, but apparently we're already in it, according to capitalism.
Oh, yeah, I would also agree with, like, November 1st, or just, like, November in general. Like,
Yeah,
even
like,
though
what
Thanksgiving is coming... What?
I was saying, like, yeah, what is Nintendo doing? It is November 1st. We're all in agreement. And Thanksgiving counts. Like, I feel like around Thanksgiving... It used to be Black Friday was the tipping point.
I know. Like, even though, like, Thanksgiving's coming, it just feels like holiday time. Especially because Black Friday usually is holiday gift shopping.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Like, who... I mean, I understand chip shortage and stuff. Like, people are buying stuff early to ensure they have it. But, like, I don't know. It's too early. I feel like it's so, like, Grinch curmudgeon-y right now, but it's too early is what I'm saying. But I am going to use this as a transition. It's a bad transition. That's never stopped me before, but I'm doing it. Here we go. If we're talking holidays, what better way to start than with a game that's a true gift? Metroid Dread. Pause for cringe. Okay, let's go. Metroid Dread. So who among us has actually beaten it already?
I have...
Yep,
Okay,
I have
one.
beaten it.
So that's 2.
Have you?
I don't know why I phrased the question that way or counted that way, because I guess I'm the only one that hasn't beaten it yet. But with this shocker.
What?
But with that in mind, it would probably make sense for you two, since you played the most of it, to share your impressions.
I mean, how much time have you put into it? I mean, it's
What?
like a 5-hour game.
No, it's 5 hours if you're good. Well, I mean, we'll get to the difficulty thing, but like if you're good at video games, it could be 5 hours. If you're bad at video games and whatnot, it could be longer. But I mean, what do you guys think of it as a whole experience since you have beaten it? Spoiler free for me, for my sake.
I guess, overall, I really enjoyed it. I kind of wish it was a little more challenging. It's like I felt like I don't know, I feel like I struggled in past 2D Metroid games a little more. Although, kind of looking back, like thinking about Zero Mission, I kind of distinctly remember that one also being not too hard. I also remember Super Metroid being not too... I guess probably Metroid Fusion I probably thought was the toughest, but I haven't replayed it since I was a younger lad, so maybe it wasn't as hard as I remembered. I don't know. Like, at most, I think I maybe die like a handful of times during a boss battle, but those are basically it, and not even all the bosses. But that aside, like I had a ton of fun with the game. Just really fun, creative boss battles. I loved exploring the areas. Using the powers were great, and just like the way Samus just feels really, really good. Just like very tight controls, extremely responsive. Like I never felt like I could blame the controls for something. But yeah, that's pretty much it overall.
I feel like it's easy sometimes. I was gonna say, I feel like it's sometimes easy to get lost in the fact that they layer so many shoulder buttons on top of one another initially. Once you get the hang of it, it's fine. But like initially, you're like, okay, you're doing the Omega Can, you press this shoulder, then that shoulder, then this face button, then this shoulder again. And you're like, okay, sure. There's enough buttons.
I'm sure it helped that
but
I'm sure it helped that I just came off of playing Samus Returns, because the controls are pretty much identical, like down to the Aeon powers and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Except there's streamlined in this one. Yeah, but otherwise, I don't know if I would have had a different experience with the controllers if I hadn't. But
how about you, Kevin? Because you did not come off Samus Returns directly like he did.
No, I didn't. Now Metroid Dread, I really, really like it. It's definitely hard for me to say if it's my favorite 2D Metroid, because it's been so long since I've played a 2D Metroid, Fusion being almost 20 years old at this point, which was the last one that I played. And I never, like you said, I never played Samus Returns on the 3DS. But I mean, I definitely like it more than Super Metroid, which was always my favorite. I do have some problems with this game that I'm sure we'll get to. Like, I know for Angel it wasn't an issue, but the controls are one of my biggest gripes with this game. And some other little things, or well, one other big thing, and then a few little nitpicks. But aside from that, yeah, I couldn't stop putting it down. Every waking moment I was thinking about the game. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend it to anybody who's a fan of Metroidvania titles.
Yeah, I like, honestly, one of the, because the controls are kind of not clumsy, but they're a bit weird. But I think what overshadows it, kind of to your point, is just like it is a very it feels like such a good Metroid experience. I mean, like, one of my favorite aspects of the game has been just the atmosphere it creates. Like, Metroid Prime, I think, is probably the pinnacle of that, just because you're in first-person perspective and your view is limited to, what Samus's visor can show you. But for a side-scroller, like, Dread definitely, like, creates a vibe for itself. And especially, not to, like, be like, oh, switch OLED model, but honestly, like, especially on the OLED model, like, the crispness, the color contrast, the real blacks, it's this whole, like, dark, moody experience. And especially, I tried playing in a dark room just to, like, see, and because the colors pop so much and the blacks are so black, the blacked out parts essentially fade away. So you literally just see, like, what's there, which really does help create kind of the mood. But I feel like one thing that a lot of people have kind of, I wouldn't say overlooked, but something I haven't heard much about in, like, the Metroid discourse is the sound design in this game. Like, the visuals have their cool moments, but I really feel like it's the ambient music, the E.M.M.I's little chirps coming and going. Like, all that really feels like what makes it kind of more of an experience. And really, the E.M.M.I's in general, like, I didn't expect them to be so visceral, I guess. Like, when I enter their areas, like, I do actually feel that looming sense of dread, which, they talked about at E3, and it kind of sounded like a marketing spiel, like, oh, when you're being chased, like, the fear of being chased, you're gonna feel so much dread. But, like, honestly, I noticed that I was tensing up a bit. Like, it's really not that much more elaborate of a system than Metroid Fusion's SAS. The only difference is, instead of being cutscenes where SAS pops out, it's, certain designated areas where you have more of these E.M.M.I's or whatever. But, like, for something so straightforward, it's so well done.
That's interesting, because I thought the E.M.M.I's were the weakest part of the game.
Really? Oh, interesting. Yeah, I really like them. But I also like more action than exploration in general.
I think the pre-release focus on the E.M.M.I's actually did this game a huge disservice, personally. Because I barely even used the cloak ability towards the last 3 or 4. On top of that, the last E.M.M.I, by then you have so many traversal abilities at your disposal that you can just blow right past it. Honestly, that last one, I didn't even see it in the E.M.M.I zone until I had to confront it.
I wonder if part of it's the difficulty, because, Angel was saying it's not particularly difficult. You're blowing past E.M.M.I's, but for me, like, Mr. Like, the pinnacle of gaming skills over here, skills with a Z over here, I definitely have been dying a lot. Like, mostly at the hand of bosses, who can pack quite a wall up at times, but also like just the E.M.M.Is in general. If I unsuccessfully dodge them, there's definitely like resets I've been doing with the E.M.M.Is, and what I guess surprised me is I sort of thought that I'd be like, oh man, I'm dying a lot, this sucks, but like something about it, like, you know, dying 5 times, 10 times over, whatever, I don't seem to have my motivation waning, and I think, I don't even remember necessarily. Sorry, what was that, Angel?
No, so like when you get caught by the Emmys, do you try to counter them, or do you just kind of go like, I got caught, I guess I'm dead?
No, I try to counter, but yeah, I don't know. One thing I read is some people are saying don't use the Joy-Cons, use the Pro Controller for the ergonomics and for, you know, just in general. And I feel like I've been playing mostly in handheld, like I was saying, you know, in a dark room to try out the OLED screen. And I do wonder if on some level some of my struggles are because it isn't as ergonomic. So like when I go to reach, like to dodge it, or maybe I don't have the timing right or something. Well, a few times I play on the TV, I do. I don't know, but
perhaps. But
either way, like what?
Oh, go for it.
I was just gonna say, either way, what I think actually surprised me the most is usually if I die a lot, I'm just like, screw this. But like something about this game is like, I'm motivated to keep going. I don't know if it's because like everyone's sharing their completion times and it's like, oh, this is doable. Like, you know, you said it's like a 5-hour game. Like I've seen people do it in 8. I'm like, I could do this. But I think also like the one thing it does pretty nicely, and I don't remember if other Metroids do it, but I know other Metroidvanias don't necessarily, is when you do die, you do not have to backtrack very much. I mean, obviously, there's map backtracking in the game as a whole, but if you die, they do a very good job of putting you basically right back where you were. Like, you're right outside that pixelated door if you need to go deal with the E.M.M.I again. You're a room away or two from a boss battle if you lose in a boss battle. So you never have to, like, do over very much, which really helps, even if it's harder, prevent it being, like, frustrating for me, you know? Like, that's something I actually really appreciate. And I don't remember if other Metroids did it, but I know other Metroidvanias definitely make you play over the same stuff a little more frequently. So that's
yeah.
nice.
Well, yeah, they literally take you back to your last save point. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or sometimes
which on the flip side might be
they'll just put you right outside the door that you just entered for whatever encounter killed you.
Which is great because, like, and I feel like on some level, you know, for folks who want a more challenging experience, being like, oh, I died and they didn't punish me is almost detrimental. But for me, it's great. But one frustration I did, I don't know if you guys experienced this actually, but some of the hidden blocks you need to destroy are almost like too hidden. Like there's been a few times where I've gotten, I wouldn't say lost, but you know, you have to look around and figure out what to do. That's Metroid. But like, I think that the thing that's weird is some of the blocks, like they have organic hints or whatever of this is destroyable, and then some of them don't. Like what specifically comes to mind is when I first arrived on, was it Darren? Is that how you Dayron? However you say the planet that you take the train to, like somewhat early on. Like there's this room, a screen or two to the left, and in the top left corner of that room, you just hit a random block and, oh, surprise, it's destroyable. But like, the visual cue would have been nice. I don't know, I feel like sometimes I get lost unnecessarily because of that. And I know it's about exploration, but they do such a good job of sort of giving a guiding hand for a lot of it. Like, you know, when you do the thermals, it's you follow the thermal flow or this, that, next thing, just like occasionally from just be like, find the block, it could be anywhere, good luck. Just feels, I don't know, a little weird. Like, did you guys have that experience at all, or am I just bad at identifying dark blocks?
I had it just a little bit, for sure, where I'd get lost, and there were some blocks that I just think to myself, how was I supposed to know that I was supposed to break that? Unless it was done completely by accident. I don't know about you, Angel. I saw that you retweeted, or I think you commented on some tweet of the original God of War creator talking about it.
Oh yeah, the David Jaffe with the ceiling thing. That ceiling in particular, I felt had a lot of visual cues, because I mean you have like the enemy crawling upside down on it, and most of the time you're not gonna hit it completely, so you're gonna destroy the block behind it. But there's also enemies right behind that block as well. But either way,
with that one in particular, I thought it was really weak. Whoever put the video together showed off for like the first 6 people that they just shot it by accident. Because one thing that we haven't talked about is the parry in this game. A lot of people parrying, so if I have the option to parry before shooting, I will do that. So I can understand somebody probably getting up there and waiting to parry that enemy and not actually shooting at it, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and
go ahead.
I feel like, and that's like definitely like just a part of Metroid. And I know like in the very beginning of the game, like they straight up tell you like, oh, shoot at everything because you don't know it's there. And yeah, that's not the best excuse either if you're not gonna put something else. I mean, like, they do have the enemy behind it, but at the same time, like, someone could just be reading the room and think like, well, there's an enemy behind there, but there's also a wall, and I know my bullets can't go through a wall, so maybe I'm not gonna bother shooting. But I don't know, maybe that's what you kind of have to force yourself to break out of. The only time something like that happened to me in the whole game was there was a wall that I think I would, well, actually I don't remember if this is the case in that room with the ceiling, but throughout the game, if an area has like a hidden object or anything like that, it will start like, pulsating white on your map. And that just tells you that there's something hidden there. And if you know there's something hidden there, then like one of these walls or one of these blocks isn't going to be, I guess, a real wall. And I just remember like the way forward was like up this shaft where an E.M.M.I used to be, and I shot the wall, and I made a hole through it, and I'm like, alright, cool. But I didn't have the morph ball at that time, so I couldn't go through the gap. But for some reason, and maybe this is just like the same reason why like some people got stuck in that ceiling section, I decided to not try to shoot the rest of the wall. And I'll say that like for that one particular, I didn't even have to use like a missile. I just shot like a regular bullet and it got destroyed. But for some reason I didn't try shooting the rest of the wall to essentially clear out the entire wall. I just shot it once and I was like, oh, can't fit through. I guess I'm gonna go a different way. And then as soon as I went a different way, I then realized, like, wait a minute, I should try shooting the rest of it. And then sure enough, that was the way. But yeah, other than that.
That's an interesting thing you brought up about the map, too. But finish your thought, and then I want to chime in on the map.
But, yeah, like, obviously, like, for something like that in particular, like, if you're someone that's, like, specifically looking for context clues to proceed, and obviously this is not I'm not making an excuse for the game, because, if you have really good game design, there either should have been a better way for them to identify that the wall is breakable. Especially if it's part of, like, the main path you have to take. If it's, like, just for a secret, sure, keep it as hidden as possible. You have the pulsating light anyway. But typically when I'm playing a Metroid game, like, I'm literally running and shooting every single inch of everything, whether there's something there or not. So even if there was, like, intention for me to, like, even if there was, like, a clue for me to hit something, I'm gonna still ignore the clue anyway because I'm shooting everything regardless. Because that's just
what's tough there is that there are people who this will be their first Metroid, and it's my first Metroid in 20 years.
It is not the same experience for someone that doesn't play Metroid games often versus someone that, like, is playing for or even just straight up their first one, period. Like, my experience is definitely not going to be comparable whatsoever to, like, what they experienced. So, like, for me, like, I was saying, like, oh, the difficulty wasn't that bad. Like, I was kind of hoping the E.M.M.Is would be a little deadlier. Like, when I found out, or when I learned, just, like, by playing it, that you have 2 opportunities to counter them. After that, it was pretty much over. Like, if I got caught...
Wait, there's 2?
Yeah, there's 2.
Yeah, like
there's when you usually get grabbed, and then
there's the second one they wind up
it
to
stabs
hit.
you.
Oh. I was wondering why it lingered there, and I stupidly never tried to counter a second time. Like, because it does pause, you're right. I never thought about that. I was like, oh, I guess it's for dramatic effect.
And once after I learned that, like, I want to say, like, 90% of the time, like, I was able to get out of, like, an E.M.M.I grasp. So just getting caught by an E.M.M.I
no wonder the E.M.M.Is hit different for you guys. That makes sense. Yeah.
Like, it just wasn't even like, oh, I got grabbed. Oh, okay, cool.
No, I mean, that's not the entire reason. But
I'm sure having a second chance at every single one helps with making it less daunting.
Because me personally, there was like 2 times where I hit him on the second chance. If I missed the first one, the second one would always get me. 99% of the time.
Yeah. And to their benefit, like, they actually randomized. It's not like consistent, like, when the counter opportunity happens.
Oh yeah,
like,
they always change it up. It's different the entire time.
Yeah, sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower, but it's always like you hear the cue, so you kind of just want to almost like ignore the screen a little and just like please keep your ears alert, I guess. And the moment you hear it, you just counter.
Rhythm heaven just trained you for this.
It's really tough for people like me that don't play with the sound on.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah,
just looking at the visual.
And
but
to
yeah,
be
so you
fair,
can see,
like,
I
was gonna say, to be fair, the map is
a little
really
more
good in the game. Like, I mentioned there's kind of a guiding hand on screen as you're exploring, but also like the map the flashing visual cue, the marker system, like all that's pretty good for someone who maybe is newer to the series. Or
I
hasn't played
never
in
used the marker
17 years.
system. Did you, Angel?
Me neither. No.
I didn't use it a ton,
I
but
kept
I started
wanting-
to notice,
kind of
like,
useless considering the amount of
Yeah.
icons, and they look so similar to like some other icons that you get later on.
Yeah,
in
like the
game.
elevator one.
Yeah, exactly.
well,
It's
what
like,
I
Jesus.
found it useful for was
I was
there was a
hoping to
couple
find a
times
use for
when,
them,
like,
but yeah.
there are a couple times where you have to, like, you know, you go turn a knob or do a thing, and then, like, oh, the lava lowers in a room, and what room was it? It's the room right below where you are, but you have to, like, snake around to get to it. So sometimes, like, I would just throw a marker on it to be like, oh, in case I get sidetracked or find another door or a secret, I'll at least know where I need to get back to. But that's it. Like, I don't use it for a lot.
Yeah,
but even that
I mean, at
kind
least
of
the
rules
option
it,
was
you know?
there.
Yeah, at least the option was there. You know what?
Yeah, which is
the
nice.
option
But
w-
the...
you know what option
No, go ahead.
wasn't
What were you
there? I just want to get my biggest gripe out of the way with this game.
Yeah, for sure. That's what we're here for.
And this isn't even necessarily an exclusive gripe for this game, but I can't believe how it's still 2021 and console games still won't let you remap button layouts in game.
That would be so nice for some of the weird shoulder button combos you have to do in this.
Yeah, because like by the end of the game, some obstacles will require you to press 3 buttons and then still use the joystick.
How do you
So
have
being
enough
able
fingers?
to get that like a little bit more comfortable would be really fun.
I think the thing that throws me off is, like, for the most part, they have enough buttons to not have you press multiple buttons. You know, like the fact that if you want to shoot a missile, you basically hit 3 different buttons to be able to custom aim a missile with your reticle. Like, that seems like it could at least be 2, maybe even 1 if you want to be real crazy. But
Just like
I don't know. Like that's just a
missile
little
button
strange.
instead.
Yeah, like, I mean, they have, like, the toggle to turn on the missile, but then you still have to do, like, the other 2 in tandem. It's just like, why? But yeah, custom map controls would be nice. More games are doing it, I feel like, but for something like this, it would be
Really?
specifically nice.
I cannot remember the last time a console game let me customize the button layout in game.
Weirdly enough, if I remember correctly, I don't remember if it was customizable or just a layout, but Monkey Ball had a whole controls menu, the Banana Mania, the new one.
Yeah,
But and you know, that's the pinnacle of you need custom controls is Monkey Ball. But yeah, it's. I feel like in games where they're trying harder to appeal to as many people as possible, like Monkey Mania or Banana Mania, where they were like trying bring in new fans and do the old and have like helper, but like advanced difficulty stuff. That's popping up more. I think Cruise and Blast might also do it if I remember correctly, but I'm not sure. But yes, generally I agree 100%. And that's kind of thing. Like, I feel like a lot of what we're talking about, like, we're like, oh, it's a good game, and then we proceeded to talk for like 10 or 15 minutes about all the flaws with it. But these are all relatively small. Like, custom controls would be nice, but obviously you guys played through it and had fun without it. Like, the hidden blocks would be nice if maybe on the map, along with marking when there's a hidden item, if there's just a hidden block to get to the next room, maybe that could be marked too. Just saying. But like, for the most part,
To be fair, though,
it is a
there
fun
is
game.
an ability you get early-ish where
probably about
You're
halfway,
just like-
halfway through.
yeah, the one that pretty much just like pretty much just straight up tells you what
Yeah.
where all the hidden blocks are. Like it's like
But
literally a
seems
radar.
That seems like, I mean, it's great, but that seems like that should be there as soon as they introduce hidden blocks. Because how you find those blocks in the interim if you're a newer player, like Kevin was saying.
Because once you get it, it pretty much negates any, I guess, hiddenness of it. It's like if you're not sure where to go, where to explore, you just use it, and then suddenly the entire screen is pulsating. Like, oh, here is the path.
Oh,
Yeah, but
You know,
I also feel like that is sort of like an easy out for them to do. You know, it would kind of make sense if up to that point, or like if they throw that a little bit earlier in the game, and up to that point there wasn't really any hidden blocks, or like, not that there isn't any hidden blocks, but like some of the more trickier hidden blocks that you have to discover. And then you get it, and then it's like, oh, now you really have to use that ability to see where everything's at. It is kind of messed that you get it like 40 to 50% of the way through the game.
Yeah, because there's still that first chunk where, like, what if you're newer or just like me and don't see hidden blocks? Yeah, but I will say though, like, obviously the blocking's kind of, the controls can be a little whatever, but like, I think Angel kind of touched on this. Samus just controls really well. Like I just feel
it's
cool.
incredible.
Like
Just
sliding
moving her
under
left to right
enemies, like
feels
yeah,
so good. Her sense of speed
so
is great.
good. Yeah, and like as you start getting more abilities where you do even go faster and things like that. Yeah, screw attacks and all that. Like it feels right. Like they really nailed the feeling, which I guess goes hand in hand with nailing the atmosphere, like I was saying before. But yeah, I'm just. Even, the reticle system, which I know came in with Samus Returns, but, like, I can't imagine a Metroid game without it anymore. Like, it's just it feels like such a key part. Like, they just really did a good job overall. With
How far into the
Metroid
game are you, Jason?
I'm on the 4th or 5th, like, place you go to.
Gotcha.
I forgot which planet because the name's kind of blurred. Like, I had to write down Darren or Dairon, whatever it's called, in order to make my point about the hidden block. But because all the names kind of wash together if you don't, like, pay that much attention, because they never actually say you are now at this place. It's just like on the corner of the map. So I'm on the 4th or 5th, whatever it's called. Yeah.
Gotcha,
so I'm like like halfway ish, kind of.
4th or 5th. I'd say you're actually about like 60% of the way there.
Then I should. Okay, I probably am not at 5th because I should then have the path identifier. So I must be at the 4th. But
okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm actually think I'm gonna go back and do it because that's the thing is like I'm making these little nitpicks about like I wish I could find hidden blocks and this and that next thing, but like. All they're really doing is running up my playtime clock. Like, I'm not finding the trial and error to be that frustrating. It's just in a game where they do so much right, these things just almost stand out more as, like, little nitpicks that they can fix, which they won't, obviously. But, that should have been maybe addressed differently or whatever. But, yeah, like, I'm having a really good time with it, which I think I'm further in this one, or I think this will be my first Metroid I beat in the end, because I think Fusion I dropped off, like, halfway through. But I was also, like, 14. So, and Prime came out the same day. But yeah. But if you guys have gone to the end of the game, I assume that means you saw the credits then, right?
You mean the lack thereof?
Okay, because there's
I'm just kidding. There were some, but yeah.
Yeah. What was left of them? Because I feel like if we're talking about things Mercury Steam did wrong, right? Like if we're talking about the issues with the game, like the game is great. Like if you like Metroid, you'll like the game. I mean, it's the fact that you said it was better than Super Metroid in your opinion. That's high praise. But if we're nitpicking the things that went wrong, I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with what happened. But essentially, some staff from Mercury Steam have claimed that they didn't make it into the game's credit after they left the studio, like mid-development or whatever. And Mercury Steam's response amounted to, and I'm paraphrasing, tough. They've got to be involved in at least a quarter of the entire dev time of the project. If they're not, they get 0 credit, which is that crazy? That feels crazy. Like
it is crazy.
Work on something, you should get credit.
Yeah, and this isn't necessarily just an exclusive. This isn't an exclusive thing for Mercury Steam. No, this is like industry. This is an industry-wide problem,
and it's so like I think what's so off-putting about
it's so easy just to put their name in a list of credits.
Yeah.
It feels like one of those weird, like, game industry secrecy things that's just so unnecessary. Like, the game industry is so obsessed with this concept of secrecy that they'd rather, literally bury a person's work than possibly reveal that someone that worked on game X is now doing a project at company Y or whatever. And, like, I'm sure on some level it's also, like, a little pettiness about, you didn't stick it out. But either way, like, if you contrast that with, like, the movie industry, or the second there's, like, a director or a writer or a producer tied to a project, it's shouted from high heaven. Or, like, in the music industry where it doesn't matter how many people are working on a song or album. If you're in the studio and you say, like, hey, change that note from, like, an A to a B, or, like, add this word to the lyrics, you're in the credits. Like, you're right there in the songwriter credits. It's just so weird that gaming's like, everything's gotta be hush-hush because, like, gamers can't possibly know what's going on. Like, yeah, it's fine. Like, give them the credit. It doesn't make sense. It's dumb. I mean, Angel, I'm sure you have thoughts because you're, like, in the industry.
No, yeah, that really sucks, because I saw, like, a couple posts, like, from animators just saying how, like, oh, yeah, the scene over here, like, I worked on the scene, but, they have, like, no credit for it. And, like, I feel that sucks a lot, because, like, I feel like the cinematics or the way, like, a lot of the story was delivered just looked really cool and was really well done. So just kind of weird that one of the best parts of the game was uncredited for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, damn, those boss intros and all that stuff. I mean, damn.
Like, imagine the heartbreak
that's really where the game comes to life,
showing,
too.
like, your parents, like, here, my name's coming up right now, and then you don't see it. Like,
I think you should be applying for a job. Like, they literally have to take their word for it that they worked on that game, even just like from like a simple resume point of view.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
you credited? No, all right. Did they get an
And
online credit? I don't know. I know there's somewhere where
I,
there's like a database where, or I don't know if that's like a wiki kind of situation where people just like grab all the credits listed in a game, and that's just like with
I
the online.
mean,
I think it's called like Blue Whale or
I'm
something. But
sure. I'm sure that if one of the uncredited people is trying to get a job at another dev studio, and then they called up Mercury's team, I'm sure Mercury's team would tell them, "Yeah, he worked here for 4 months on Metroid Dread." But I mean, it's
the
still
fact that they
nice
have
to
to
have
go
the
through
credit.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
it's dumb. And I get the impression that Nintendo, like, they don't have a direct hand. They don't own Mercury's team. They don't, they can't. I mean, I guess they could mandate because they paid for the game. But, like, I feel like they were probably unaware because Nintendo seems to be pretty good about being inclusive with their dev teams and involvement of everyone on a project. But, like, generally, yeah, this is an industry practice that just sucks. Like, I don't know. Like, I know, like, in the movie industry, like, sometimes animation studios have similar issues. But generally, in movie contracts, or when you join a studio, it's outlined in your contract exactly what you want your credit to be. Like, you fill in what you want your credited name to be. And the fact that, like, some studios are able to sidestep that is just, it's not treating their employees with respect,
Yeah.
But I guess to end
Shame.
yeah, shame
I am
on
not done
Mercury's
talking about
team.
this game.
Okay,
enjoy
go. I was
crap
gonna
out
end
of
it on a
this game.
positive note, but go for it. If you have more, by all means.
We barely touched upon it, but I think once again, I had to play Samus Returns, but the parry, I love the parry. I love how pretty much every enemy, with the exception of like the bosses and the mini bosses, it's just a one-hit kill. And it's just so satisfying every time to nail it. And those crazy bastards at Mercury's team just know how to raise your endorphins, because when you do a successful parry, the camera just punches right before you nail it with the blast shot.
The game, if nothing else, just makes you feel badass. Like, when you're not trying to find hidden box,
absolutely.
you just feel badass. And for Nintendo, like, it's so different in vibe than any other game they do that it really, the fact that it's now getting more attention and sort of taking off a little, it's like really, it's good. It's great.
I love how, just absolutely, and not only that, it makes you feel like a badass, but it's mainly because Samus is quite the badass in this game.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
She's awesome. This one might just be for me. I don't know about you guys, but I loved painting every square of the map. Just like trying to wall bounce at the right time just to fill in that little tiny gap early on in the game.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I definitely do that too, because it's really annoying when you're like when you're looking at the map and it's just like a weird mess of
it's like two tones,
trail.
and then eventually you have like 6 different colors on the map.
And when they get to space jump, you're pretty much just you're painting the whole thing.
As soon as it's funny because my final end time was 15 hours, and it was mainly because of trying to paint in everything that I could. But as soon as you get the space jump, pretty much all that time that you wasted, it goes out the window, because with space jump you just cover everything.
I feel like I'm gonna have a similar runtime, but not for that reason. I haven't really done that, which maybe I should, because maybe it'll make the map easier for me to find stuff. But for me, it's just a trial and error.
If there was a couple more things, I wish that the game was a little bit more challenging, like the boss fights specifically. It only takes you maybe 1 or 2 like tries every phase to learn the pattern recognition, because by the time that I finally would finish the boss, I would get hit maybe once or twice.
Especially like that.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, especially that final boss. Like, it was cool without saying like much, but like by the time like I finished but I guess by the time I beat it, I felt like I was like oh man, did I like master the speedrunning version of this? Because like I just literally didn't get hit, and like I would like trigger like the next phase like super fast, and it just felt like
it
could have been this easy.
The first phase of that boss I would breeze like no problem. It was the second phase that got me, because it requires you to do the space jump, and sometimes the space jump doesn't work correctly, where you won't get that second bounce.
Yeah, it depends on whether you're jumping straight up or jumping forward, basically.
Yeah,
Because you either get
it's very annoying, and so that caused
and
a lot of
that's
deaths
definitely a
for me.
metric thing for sure.
Yeah, but aside from that, yeah, even the final boss, like it's like Angel said, it's very cool, but I just wish that they were a little bit more or a little bit, not necessarily a little bit more challenging, but a little bit more random, a little bit more.
Yeah,
What's the word?
it almost was like
Very.
they just needed like another attack or two.
Another attack or two, and just have them mix it up a little bit.
So more varied.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit more varied.
Yeah,
but aside from
I would
that,
say though, I am glad that
it's pretty good.
I'm glad the game didn't lean into, I guess, a lot of reuse tracks, if any, because. Yeah, I mean, I love Magmor Carbons as much as the next person, but I feel like every 2D Metroid I've played that has a lava area always uses Magmor Carbons, or Caverns. I don't know why I call it Carbons. And, yeah, so, like, it was just kind of cool just hearing, like, oh, cool, I don't have to hear this song for, like, the millionth time. But, that being said, I don't think I remember any of the tracks. Like, usually there's, like, at least 1-2 tracks that...
melodic.
Yeah. Because usually there's like a track or two like from every Metroid game that I'll remember, even if it's like a new Metroid game. But this one didn't really. Yeah, I guess they didn't really try to create any kind of like super catchy melody. Mm-hmm. Like the music was just, it was serviceable. It wasn't bad at any point, but yeah, I guess this wasn't memorable. Is another way to put it. But yeah,
I feel like it kind of goes back to what I was saying, where like the sound design was good, which is different than the composition of music. But like it seems like because they put such an emphasis on like the little E.M.M.I chirps and things like that, like music sort of step back a little to allow the sound effects and design to come through. Whether that's a good choice or not, I don't know. But that seems to be kind of what happened.
The Jasoning, yes.
But was there anything else you guys want to touch on with Dread?
That's pretty much
it. The completion bonuses were better. Not that they're bad. I mean, I don't really want to spoil what they are, but I was kind of hoping...
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, when you first beat the game and you get a little reward, I was just thinking, wait, what?
Yeah, and then you don't even get, like, different ending types depending on how fast you beat or anything. It's just the reward changes, but the reward itself is more like... I don't know. It's weird. If anything,
very
like, I thought the reward for getting all the items would have been what you get like for finishing the game. I don't know. But even if that was the case, like I feel like that wouldn't have been still as satisfying.
Ranked against what you get when you collect all the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild, are we talking better or worse than that?
I mean, obviously better, but
okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Better.
I mean, now we know the baseline. Yeah.
Also, very super weird that they don't have a New Game Plus. I feel like at this day and age, a game like this would give you a New Game Plus that gives you... Because you do unlock a hard mode, but you don't start with your abilities.
I guess because the game is super short. It's definitely designed around speedrunning, and seeing like what people have come up with already is ridiculous. Like how people are getting like the gravity suit super early and all that stuff. But yeah, because I mean, I would love to... I mean, yeah, if you beat the game, then you know that like towards the end... things get a little nutty with what you can do, and I kind of wish like, I wish I could just like play with this, even though it would like definitely break it. It would just be really fun just to like mess around with it. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense to someone.
It's possible, although it feels unlikely that they might do DLC where they add a New Game Plus or something, because Metroid is one of the few games that Nintendo hasn't announced any post-game support for, and given how well it seems to be doing. I mean, this is like it's the highest grossing Metroid game in chart history in the UK, surpassing Metroid Prime off physical revenue alone, not including the eShop sales. In Japan, it's already like 2 weeks out, or no, I think it was within 3 days. It almost surpassed every other Metroid game sales. So like clearly, like the Switch bump is alive and well here, and for a franchise like this that Nintendo's neglected, it's great. But it also means there's a big open hole to shove some DLC into where you can actually get some money out of. So maybe they'll add it. Maybe, I mean, it took Animal Crossing 18 months to get a serious update. Maybe it's coming in like 9-10 months. Maybe not, but I'm just saying I wouldn't totally rule it out. It is weird it's not baked in, but I wouldn't totally rule it out just yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they would add DLC to this game, but
Well, just in terms of like New Game Plus.
But...
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, New Game Plus would be cool.
Like stuff
I thought
like
you
that,
meant like more maps, stuff like that.
Oh no, I literally meant like
talking
they can
about
add the
more-
stuff you're talking about, like New Game Plus or other options or modes. You know, that can either be post-release for free, like half of Animal Crossing's update, or it could be like for a couple bucks to get some new modes.
Oh, that I can absolutely see them adding for sure.
Yeah, and like
But I
especially
was saying
because
a
like
little bit more in terms of content.
story-wise. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I haven't heard what happens in the end. I'm not trying to spoil that, but I do know this is the end of the 2D saga in a sense. So, or so.
Or the Metroid saga, as they put it.
Yeah,
because I would love another one of these. I'm very curious, team for sure.
And again, I think, I was rattling off how
I
well
guess they could remake Part 4.
Yeah, it seems like this is
wanted
opening
to
the
go to
door
another.
for Metroid to have a bigger moment. I mean, the fact that's
Yeah,
doing
that'd
this
be great.
already-
I'd love to
Or
be
just
able
make
to
them
play-
available so more people could play it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because right now Zero Mission and Fusion really tough to play.
Not if
And
you're
if you
an
don't have a 3DS,
ambassador.
Samus Returns is like a non-starter because
Well,
I don't have a 3DS
you know, it's-
anymore.
You know what's funny is if you go to the Wii U eShop, all the top selling games right now are just variations of the Metroid you can buy on there because that's like the only place you can get Fusion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where you can
Yeah,
get Zero
but so like
Mission
people are
and
literally
Fusion,
busting
right?
out their Wii U's and going and downloading Fusion just so they can like get the full saga. And it's a crazy miss on Nintendo's part that they did not find a way, even if it was just selling it in the eShop on Switch, independent of Switch Online. The fact that they did not find a way to let people sort of understand what's going on in a franchise that's been dead for like 17 years is crazy to me. They left so much money on the table.
Hey, it's
maybe they'll-
mind-boggling, honestly, but
Yeah, maybe they'll come around. And again, maybe because the Switch bump is clearly working here with Metroid, maybe that opens the door to a Metroid Fusion remake, or they do add it, or, you know, there's so many different avenues they can go down now. But it's crazy that they waited to see, besides, like, trying to get people up to speed up front. But, yeah, it's
and
great,
I
though.
think with
It's
that,
awesome to see the franchise back.
Yep. Super happy, and Metroid Prime 4, it's right around the corner, you know?
Yeah,
corner
2020
is-
X.
Yeah, that corner is a mile away from where we're standing, but
But, you know, it used to be 7 miles, so we're getting closer. It's
Yeah,
like one of those
exactly.
blocks where it's like, oh, how long's that block? Is it like a city block, like like a New York City block, or like a normal city block? And, you know, it's a corner can be very long.
yeah.
But yeah, it's although we are, you know, kind of already talking about like fan enthusiasm stuff with, you know, Metroid having this moment. So I feel like since we're kind of wrapping up Dread, we should just real quick, and it segues us nicely into Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, but we should real quick touch on Sora and Smash Bros. Again. Obviously, last episode we spent a good deal of time covering what we thought of Sora as an idea. He's here. He's an actual fighter. He's playable. Angel, have you messed with him much? I have to imagine you have.
You make it sound like we're talking about Sora like as an idea, like as if he's some sort of religion. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I like the
Well, I
idea
mean, honestly,
of
the
Sora.
way some people reacted to him being announced,
Yeah, true.
it was kind of like a second coming.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Angel, how do you
They
actually
even
like?
had him in the trailer come out like laying
Yeah,
down, you
literally.
know, his arms extended out like if he was
I
crucified.
know, and all the
That's
characters
not
like
true,
looking
but-
up at him in awe, and like you just need some like
Sora
angelic
is
music, and
essentially
it was
Jesus. You're right.
he is Jesus. He is Smash Bros. Jesus, and he came back to enlighten the world. But yeah, Angel, how do you like him? Because I imagine you put more time to him than I probably ever will.
I'm pretty sure you put more time into playing as Sora than I did.
Really, you didn't like actually put him through his paces?
Only just a little bit, just to see what he felt like, but I didn't really have much interest in playing as Sora. I had definitely just had more interest in playing against Sora, just to see what that's going to be like. Because, you know, I didn't really play Kingdom Hearts, so the character itself means nothing to me.
Right, but as a
I can
fighter.
appreciate his inclusion. It's definitely, like we said last time, it's like, it felt like it's definitely a big deal.
You're telling me that I didn't sell you on playing the series?
Not quite. If anything,
You know what's funny
Good.
about that, Kevin? That whole
Maybe I should do it
rigmarole,
the worst way that I can, so that no one ever touches the series.
that whole rigmarole we went through last episode, where we were like listing off each Cloud game and what it came with and everything. Now Square Enix just to throw a wrench in it, saying, "Oh, the earlier games might actually get a physical release after all." So now there's another layer of insanity.
Oh boy. if it does,
They
get a
aren't confirming it. They just said
release-
it's not set in stone or something like that. So
Okay,
here we go.
If it does get a physical release, I might actually pick it up. At this point, you know how some people have bought in Resident Evil 4 like 8 different times?
Yeah.
If I buy that
Skyrim.
physical release, or Skyrim, this will be my 5th or 6th time buying the first game.
Damn.
I mean, you gotta catch them all at some point, right? Like you have so many already.
The first, and just to be clear, the first absolutely fantastic. Right before the show gets wild. It's a very good game. Like the second game is fantastic as well. That's where they introduce a bunch of the lore, and that's where you could probably stop if you want.
I don't know why I'm always so entertained by you dissing Kingdom. Maybe because I know you're such a big fan, and at the same time, like you hate it so much. It's very entertaining, Kevin.
Yeah, I personally haven't had I did not have time to put into Sora at all, so I will be looking forward to that.
Yeah, you don't really do much with Smash in general, though. So that, right?
Yeah, I don't, but
Yeah.
if there's any characters that are absolutely going to get me to play, it's weird anime heroes.
Fair. But I guess Angel, back to you, because I think we kind of got on a tangent. You were talking about the experience of Sora, or going against Sora, maybe.
Yeah, so like, what little time I spent with Sora, like, definitely told me right away that, like, even if, I mean, not being attached to a character has never stopped me from having fun with the character, or like trying to use them as a primary. Like, I've done that with Ike, and I could care less about Fire Emblem. I mean, Rob is one of my favorite characters to use, and I didn't necessarily have any nostalgia for Rob. If anything, all my adoration for Rob comes from like Brawl and Smash 4. But yeah, just the way he feels, he's just an extremely floaty character. He's also another one of those characters that has a really, really high and weird second jump, kind of like Mewtwo, Ness, and especially Kazuya. If anything, more like Kazuya. Like, they just keep going up and up, and it's weird. And I typically don't really like characters with like a extremely high floaty jump, but
he's so
just playing
floaty.
against him,
like
even
like his giant shoes have to be filled with helium. Like, he's so floaty. Like, even I was like, wow. And I usually don't.
I mean,
like,
that would be
me.
very keeping in line with the character for sure, though, because he's very floaty in those games.
So I guess it's just good fan service.
Yeah, and it's definitely a testament to, like, I mean, even though I haven't played Kingdom Hearts, I've seen plenty of footage, and whenever he's, like, doing his, like, aerial combos, it almost looks like, damn, it looks like a 2D version of, like, Kingdom Hearts that he's playing. It's just really cool. But, yeah, like, he is surprisingly straightforward. Like, I didn't feel, like, super limited when I was playing him, or everyone that I played against just seemed to, like, start doing broken stuff, like, really fast. And not that he's like a broken character. He's definitely not a Bayonetta or anything. Like, he feels pretty fair to fight against. Like, I don't really have anything big to complain about, except maybe just the fact that you can't win by just knocking him off the stage. Like, you have to kill him straight out, because they decided to give him like all the recoveries ever, so he can basically come back from anywhere. Like, I literally
like Jesus
side beat a Sora.
Just saying.
Like, I side beat a Sora with Bowser, which, like, he does like a wrestling style slam where he like jumps with you and power drives you. And I did that off stage, and I went to the furthest corner you can go. And Bowser always dies first, giving the opponent like a chance to recover. And even from the furthest bottom left corner, like where you were like a little blip on the screen, he still managed to double jump, up B, and do like 3 of those side B targeting things that he does, and made it back to stage. So it's like, yeah, the Sora guy. But he's also super light, so it's not like it takes much to just outright kill him anyway. But yeah, tricky character.
I think on the other end, though, like, he might be tricky to play against, but on the other end, playing as him, like, I'm sticking to what I suspected when we talked about him last time, which he does feel kind of to play as back to basics. Like, I know he has deeper combos, and I know his neutral B does like 3 different elements that you can summon, fire, electricity, ice, but those are in a set pattern, and like, I don't know, everything about him just seems like more normal and pick up and play without needing to like learn much. Like, there's no randomizing second menu, there's no special charge up, there's no block building and breaking. Like, it's just, here's a dude with a sword that happens to look like a key that happened to require a lot of Disney lawyers to make happen. But is definitely more accessible than some of the other DLC fighters, which is kind of, in a weird way, like a nice bookend for the roster. Like, if he was in the middle of the pack, I feel like it'd be like, oh, he's kind of boring. But having it kind of come full circle and go back to, like, this is what the basics of Smash Bros. Are, and here's a character fans wanted, kind of applied to that, while still doing fan service, kind of felt like the right sweet spot, if that makes sense. But yeah, he's I don't know if I'd use him as a regular character, but because he's so floaty. But, like, it works. Like, in my opinion, like, it was a good final fighter. It kind of feels like it's reminding everyone.
Toon Link is safe for now?
What? Yeah, Toon
Link
is safe for
now.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoy, like, it's funny because I like him more than a lot of the other DLC characters, in part because he has that accessibility, and it's just easy to, like, get into and just play. But I also play Smash way more casually than someone like you. So for, like, a fan service, like, mass appeal thing, sort of makes a lot of sense that he plays like this. For, you know, playing competitively, I could see that he probably has some pitfalls. And he's so floaty. Can't emphasize that enough. So floaty. But then the thing is, like, personally, would I want him to be the last character? I don't know. Like, the Waluigi thing. I feel like Waluigi should have gotten in on some level, and he would have been equally, like, simple in a way to control and accessible. But I guess for fan service reasons, okay, I'll take Waluigi having a vampire costume in Mario Kart Tour as my new Waluigi thing. He wears a cape and a top hat. But yeah, for Smash, I get why they did Sora how they did and how he controlled, and I'm totally fine with that.
And sometimes it isn't just that simple and clean.
Yeah. Oh,
nice.
See what you did there. Beautiful. Angel, just keep the ball rolling. You're clearly on a roll with your wittiness there. So we were talking Smash briefly, but you've been playing another game kind of like Smash, but with other franchises. Nickelodeon, All-Stars Brawl. Do you have a pun to kick that one off with?
No.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, this game is very weird. I mean, you can go into it thinking like, oh, it's just like a Smash clone, and it's definitely gonna fall more into the just inspired by Smash. You could definitely say heavily inspired, but man, this game
heavily
is
inspired by one game in the series, right?
Oh,
it's
Melee.
It's Melee, right?
Yeah, it definitely it definitely takes a lot from. It definitely takes a lot from Melee, mainly just in the speed. But if anything, I would say it takes more from like traditional fighting games, mainly like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It feels like that's like the game that it takes from the most.
It's a PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale.
Basically.
I guess that's why it's All-Stars in the name.
But yeah, this game, essentially, you know, like Smash Brothers, it's a platform fighter. Knock the opponent off the stage, keep him from coming back to win. That's pretty much like where the similarities end. Because unlike Smash Brothers, who uses one main attack button and one special button, this game uses a main attack button, a strong attack button, and you also have the special button. But unlike Smash Brothers, where you have like, you know, a standing jab, a tilt attack, and a smash attack just mapped to your A button, in PlayStation All-Stars, you just have your jab button and your tilt do the same thing. Like, you get the same attack whether you're tilting the analog stick or just pressing it outright normally. So, and there is no, you know, smash attack map to that button. So, no matter how hard you smash or anything, your A in the ground is going to do the same thing, no matter what you do. But, you know, you also have your up tilt, your down tilt. The air is where it gets a little weird, because your neutral air, you know, just A while in the air, forward air, and back air are also all the same move. So, like, what would be 3 moves in Smash Brothers is 1 move in this game. But, besides having your up air and down air. But in addition to that, you have that strong move that I mentioned, in which case you have... A strong move is basically what would be your smash attack in Smash Brothers, but it's mapped to its own button, and you obviously have 3 different directions of them, up, down, left, and right. But you also have that in the air, which you don't have in Smash Brothers. So in a way, you... Not even in a way, so you literally have 1 extra move in the air than you would in Smash Brothers. And it makes... It definitely takes some time getting used to. Because, like, fighting that muscle memory of trying to play this game like Smash Brothers is going to really hurt. Because I can't tell you how many times I've tried to smash the stick to no avail. Or how many times I keep forgetting to use my strong attack because it's mapped to a different button. And you even have a strafe button where you can just like hold it down and you're still facing the same direction as if you were a Ryu or a Ken, like in Smash Brothers. But yeah, once you get used to it, like, it starts to make sense. Like, it's really, really fun. And that's kind of the thing where I'm at with this game. After seeing what high level play looks like, or just watching my brother play, this is a game that I'm probably never going to be that great at. Cause you need to be inputting so many buttons. It's what I like about Smash Brothers, or Ultimate for that matter, is that it feels like I can actually keep pace with everything that's happening in the game. There's no real canceling of moves into other moves or crazy mobility options that most people just kind of run. But in this game, it's like you're either wave dashing the whole time or you're jump attack, drop down dashing, jump attack, drop down dashing, and everything cancels into everything. So it's kind of cool in the sense that like people can literally create random combos on the fly. Like if you think it's going to connect, it will connect. And because of that, and because combos can be so long, and pretty much every character in the roster can get a 0 to death. Like they could just combo you until the edge of the stage and kill you. But pulling that off is a lot harder than it looks as well, because, many inputs per second, you mess one thing up, then they're going to fall out of your combo. And they're also able to DI, change influence the direction. Directional influence, that's what DI stands for. You can influence the direction of where you're flying just by holding the stick either left or right. And unless like your opponent is reading your mind and knowing exactly what direction you're going to go, chances are you're going to be able to mess up their combo and you'll be able to break free and in turn do the same to them. So it's a very explosive game. If anything, it's kind of reminds me of Smash 64, because that's kind of how that game was. You had a lot of hit stun that pretty much allowed you to combo your opponents pretty easily. But that's kind of the gameplay in a nutshell. It's just a way faster, I would say way more aggressive. Definitely way more aggressive. You have a block button that, I guess, unlike Smash Brothers, in Smash Brothers you have a shield that shrinks in size with every attack that hits you, and eventually it breaks and you're stunned. In this game, that never happens. You could infinitely block and you won't take any damage. But obviously, a grab will beat a block. But also, you get pushed significantly every time you get hit. And if you get pushed to the edge, then you go into a teetering mode that it's basically like you're stunned. But what makes it trickier is that you also can't roll. There is no rolling, there is no spot dodging in the air of any kind. So defensive options are very limited. You have an air dash, but it's not an air dodge, so you can still get hit out of that. But you could also cancel the air dodge into literally any move. So, yeah, and you can also catch projectiles. All projectiles can be reflected and caught by everybody. So even the projectile game is very different, because you can't exactly camp someone, but you can only really reflect them with heavy hits or with, like I said, with throws. So there's still some amount of timing required. It's not like a brain dead thing to just like reflect everything. But yeah, it's very fun. It definitely feels like the beginning of something that has a ton of potential. Because, yeah, it's very rough around the edges. You could tell they were working with a low budget. There was no voiceover. Some of the characters looked way more polished than others. Some of them just straight up look unfinished. Just looking at the way Aang from Avatar and Ren and Stimpy animate compared to, SpongeBob and, say, Michelangelo. Or especially CatDog. Those characters look like they were put through the ringer as far as polish, but others maybe not so much. And it looks like they are trying to fix a lot of that post-release. They've definitely been changing a lot post-release, because as you might expect with a game with this many weird systems, people have found many exploits that they did not expect. Michelangelo for a while was considered the best character in the game, not because he has raw talent, but just because he has some cheese. Basically, he could grab you, throw you up, hit you twice, grab you, throw you up, hit you twice, and you can't break out of that no matter what you do. It's really easy to do, and you could just rinse and repeat until they're at a high enough percentage and then kill them. Or he could infinitely jump by spinning in his shell, canceling that attack with a jump, and then doing it again. And some other characters have stuff like that, but, that kind of stuff has since been fixed, and things seem to be at a easier, or I guess at a more level playing field. But yeah, I guess besides that roster is also kind of interesting because it's not characters who I would expect a marketing team at Nickelodeon to make them pick. It just kind of feels like it was characters they really wanted to see in there. Except for maybe the Turtles. The Turtles are the ones that are the weirdest to me. Because, as much of a Ninja Turtle fan that I am, they went with the classic 80s Turtles, which predate Nickelodeon, like, as an entity.
Weird. So it's not even Rise of the Ninja Turtles or...
it's not Rise or the 2012 series.
Wow.
Yeah, the ones that...
That's interesting.
They're not using the Turtles that they created. They're using, like, the oldies ones.
Actually, you know what?
And you have old...
That's not that weird, now that I think about it. I initially thought, that's weird. It's not, because this game is clearly, from how you're describing it, not targeting kids or Nickelodeon fans. It's targeting Smash fans. Like, I know.
I think it's weird that
it's a more complicated fighting game. It has a bunch of characters that kids today don't know. Like, obviously, on some level, SpongeBob and whatnot will get some kids, but, like, the marketing around it's been all about, like, the
Loud House characters are in there, and no one.
Yeah, I have no.
Like, literally, no one knows who those are.
That I have no idea who they are. I think
like who? Wait, like who?
That Mr. Pajama Man or whatever the hell his name is.
Toastman?
Yeah, I have.
He was
no
like
idea
one of the
who
early
Toastman
Nickelodeon thing, like early Nick, like 91, 92 Nick.
Yeah, the roster is just all over the place, but
I believe.
So. Yeah, he's from like Ren and Stimpy fame, but yeah, like the Turtles in general, like I just thought it was interesting that from a marketing standpoint, I mean, like Rise of the Ninja Turtles is still going on right now. They have a movie coming out, but yeah, I mean, like they obviously picked the Turtles that would make the most older people happy. Because, they're going to see these new Turtles and be like, oh, they have the Turtles in there, but they're not the ones I wanted. But personally, I would have liked some variety. Like, yeah, the oldies Turtles are great and all, but I don't know. I would have honestly preferred the 2012 Turtles. Or, they could give us alternate costumes that kind of change how they look. Because, the Turtles are all basically the same. Except for the Rise of the Turtles, they definitely can't do that with those because they're all vastly different body shapes. But, yeah, and, they lean hard into the nostalgia. Like, the game is, like Jason said, it's definitely made for the older crowd because, even all the stages that the Turtles are based on, they're all the oldies ones. You have the Technodrome, you have Channel 6 News, you have Random Sewers with Mondo Gecko in the background. But besides that, I mean, the character choices are definitely just really interesting, and I would say in a good way. Like, I think Helga was an interesting choice. Nigel is an interesting choice.
Helga's in the game?
Yeah. Interesting is not the right word. That's an inspired choice.
Yeah, Reptar is like the sole Rugrats representative. Then you also have Oblina from Ario Monsters. Zim is in there.
This is such a play for the Smash fan. But it's so interesting that someone at Nickelodeon or Game Factory or wherever, the developers are basically like, what if we do not a licensed game for the audience of the channel, but a licensed game for the audience of Smash Bros. And their mindset and their era and all that. Like, it's such an interesting... It's so different from every licensed game out there right now in that regard. It's interesting.
And like I mentioned earlier, you do have Lincoln Loud and Lucy Loud from a newer show that came out like in the 2018s, 2020s. That literally no one will know who they are. I just happened to have caught that show a couple times when... I guess after when switching between Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network a couple years ago. But yeah, it's an interesting choice. It's just weird that I hope we get all 4 Turtles in eventually. I wouldn't blame people if they got upset if that happened because right now I think there's only 20 characters and 3 of them are TMNT representatives. You have Leo, Mikey, and April O'Neil of all characters. I thought they would get like Shredder first or something, but sure. We got news reporter April. Although there has also been a ton of leaks and, people essentially finding like full playable stages and basically like debug versions of characters, which is really unfortunate because these surprises would have been great. But, they pretty much found a working Garfield stage. And yeah, Garfield is all but confirmed. I mean, he was purchased by Nickelodeon, I think in 2019. 2016, very recently. So he is owned by Nickelodeon. So yeah, he's all but confirmed. And Oldie Shredder is supposed to be making it in too. And maybe in that instance it makes sense. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate that James Avery passed away because he did an awesome Shredder voice back in the day. But with no voiceover, I guess that's not really an issue. Although, it is on PC,
planned?
so
If
people
they're
have
doing more
already
characters,
modded voice.
Are voices coming too? Do we know?
They plan to eventually, but, I think that's, like, low on the priority. But, I mean, just looking at, like, the list of potential characters that seem like are going to come out, based on the leak, you do have all 4 turtles. It seems like you have a ton of turtle representation. Almost, I feel, a little too much, just for a Nickelodeon game.
And that's coming from you, the turtle fan.
They're so the turtles are the fire emblem for this series. Gotcha.
Yeah, they really are. Like, it really is like Smash. You got your overrepresentation,
and I've seen that comment
weird side
pop up
characters.
in yeah, I saw that comment pop up a few times when April was released. They're just like, damn it, like it's like Fire Emblem all over again. Because like I guess
so that means April would be the Corrin and everyone else would be the sword fighters.
Yeah, but apparently we're supposed to get Tommy at some point, and some other Thornberries and whatnot. Apparently even a Double Dare stage, which there is like a working version of it in the game, but we'll see if that actually gets released.
Is there a Legends of the Hidden Temple stage?
I think there was like mention of it in the code, so that could be interesting if they do that. But I'm just surprised at all that I'm surprised that they're having a stage representative of not a cartoon at all. Because in the beginning, it sounded like that's what they were going for. Like when people were asking them, like, "Oh, are you gonna have a character from like, I don't know, one of the live action Nickelodeon shows?" And they're like, "No, it's just gonna be cartoons." But I guess game shows.
Well, game shows were such a big part of Nickelodeon's early days, like Double Dare, Guts, Figure It Out. Like it was Figure It Out being the best of the 3. Just saying, but it was like a big part of their history. So I can see why they're not gonna be like, "Look, it's Pete from Pete and Pete." It's just a human with a hat, but like storing ice cream. But like it makes sense that they might try and do stages. Yeah, I hope they do Legends of the Hidden Temple. That's having a renaissance now because it has a CW show.
I've on the voice acting stuff, I find it really weird that the devs went on about how Nickelodeon was behind them 100%, but that they couldn't use their magic to get full voice acting in it. That always struck me as a little odd.
I wonder if it was a budget thing.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a budget thing because a lot of these voice actors are very prolific. I mean, Tom Kenny, I'm sure, isn't cheap because, he's like the face of Nickelodeon. Who else he got? I guess the voice actor for Zim, I'm sure, isn't that expensive. I mean, I think he's currently popping up in a YouTube fan animation thing.
Oh, I get what you're saying, though, Kevin. You mean why doesn't Nickelodeon foot the bill on the voice actors that they already have on contract?
Which also... Yeah, so I can understand.
You think the game wasn't going to do as that well? They don't see it as like a big blow up?
Because I can obviously Nickelodeon had to fund some part of this game, right? Mm-hmm. But like, was the voice acting where it just was like, okay, we will not give you the money for the voice acting.
I get this weird feeling that Nickelodeon like got a pitch and it's like, sure, here's a couple $100,000 or whatever it costs. Have fun, kids. We'll check in later, and that was it. Like I bet you they came to Nick.
Oh, so Nick went to them. Oh,
no, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah,
my gut feeling is
no. That's what it was. Like Nickelodeon went to them.
Oh,
like they're the ones that got like pitched the project.
Well, that's even weirder. Then.
So probably someone from Nickelodeon, because like Game Mill, whoever published the game, already has
the license.
Like not the one that developed it, because Ludosity I think developed it, but Game Mill, the ones that published it, they already have the 2 Nickelodeon kart racing games under their belt, which, is basically just...
And the Garfield one. Don't forget Garfield Racing.
And both of those games, they also have a wide variety of characters. They also have Rocco, which I'm kind of surprised didn't make it into this one. Or maybe he's coming. But, yeah, those games also don't have any voiceovers, like, at all. Even though you could play as the appropriate 2012 Ninja Turtle Leonardo or SpongeBob or whatever. Like, they're just silent when you're kart racing. So, I don't know, maybe it is with the budget, maybe it's just...
some weird licensing thing.
I mean, I guess yeah, I mean, if you're gonna cut something to make development easier, I guess voices is the easiest thing, but it does kind of come off as a little soulless as you're playing in the beginning, but over time you kind of get used to it, and you kind of don't even really notice those things. Honestly, it could also be a blessing in disguise. I mean, I don't know how many people would really want to hear SpongeBob emote
like every time he punches,
like
just
5 minutes or yeah. So It depends because, like, even in Smash Bros., there are some characters that are just kind of annoying to listen to. Like, Byleth, anytime she attacks, she has, well, when using female Byleth, she does, like, this, like, high-pitched, like, shrill, like, kind of yell. And it comes out so often that it gets, like, burned into your head. Like, after you're done fighting her, that's, like, all you really remember. Yeah, certain characters have stuff like that. And I'm sure Nickelodeon characters would be no different. Just, I mean, I don't know. But there are voice mods if you want to check that out. And there was a voice mod that I saw that didn't sound as bad for SpongeBob. And I don't know, Patrick definitely felt like he was missing it.
On that thing of...
But I think I've heard...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, but that's it. Oh, no, yeah, but that was it.
On the thing of characters, like voice lines being stuck in your head, I used to play Tales of Symphonia with our buddy of ours, Matthew. And there's a character in there that says, hot stuff coming your way. And it's just ingrained in my head. Just hot stuff coming your way. Hot stuff coming your way.
Wait, what was it?
Every 30 seconds.
About like early 2000s JRPGs where they always had the voice acting like that intonation you just did. You know what I mean? Like it subsided a little in recent years, but like there's something about like, this is how they talk in those games. No matter what they're saying, it's talking like this.
There's
like
always going to be one character that definitely sounds like that in every RPG.
Yeah.
Up till the end of time, for sure.
It's such like and which is funny because when I was watching Squid Game, I finally, watched it after you guys talked it up on Arnon a few months ago now. And I had the English dub at one point, and there's a person in there, one of the actresses, voiceover actors in that, has that exact same intonation. I felt like I was like watching a JRPG or something. It was so bizarre.
Did you watch it dubbed?
I did something interesting where it was dubbed, but then we had the translation of the Korean in the subs. So we had like the English talking, but also the original English translation, which at times was completely opposite. But yeah, so it did both. Yeah. Initially we only did dub, and I was like, I feel like this voice acting is not great. Like I feel like it feels like we're missing things. So we turned on the sub too. But yeah. But anyway, yeah, that intonation is such like a game thing. Side note, by the way, Game Mill having a moment. I mean, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl and Cruisin' Blast are both like kind of, I wouldn't say they're in the zeitgeist. They're still small releases.
They were Cruisin' Blast as well?
They co-published Cruisin' Blast with Raw Thrills. Yeah, they're having a moment right now. Good for them. They've come so far since Garfield Kart. But Angel, there's one other game, as if you didn't talk enough about fighting games. Very different type of fighting game, but you also have a copy of Gang Beasts you've been playing, right? Because now that's on Switch.
And waiting for this game for such a long time. Patiently waiting. I don't remember where I first played it. Was probably that thing we went to.
Yeah, the rooftop indie event.
The indie game mix-up?
Yeah, the mix-up.
The mix?
Mm-hmm. The mix, not the mix-up, yeah. No one was confused. It was just a mix of journalists and game developers, yes. No mix-ups.
Yeah, well, yeah, because that game it was really fun when I first played it, and I think we played it again later on, I guess on my brother's PC, but it wasn't like the best setup because, you have to bring the tower over to the TV, and connect the controllers isn't always super straightforward. So no, we just really wanted a console version on something that we had easy access to with a bunch of controllers, and at the time it was a Wii U, and I think it was supposed to come to the Wii U. I recall that being a thing, and I think it just kept getting delayed until it just never happened. It never happened, right?
I don't think it ever happened.
Yeah, correct me if we're wrong.
I'll look it up.
I'm pretty sure that never happened.
I'm pretty sure it never happened.
But yeah, I mean, eventually heard that it was going to come to the Switch, which just, seems like a great fit for it, and sure enough it was. From what I recall, the menus are still identical. Text can be a little tiny to read, just because, yeah, big screen, and the text is, like, it gives me, yeah, it's just kind of hard to read, but not the end of the world. But yeah, the controls are the same. Very physics-based, wiggly characters. Like, honestly, just like watching them flail around, it's just like part of the charm and fun. But you got your shoulder buttons. Pressing each one individually will either throw out a punch if you just tap it, or you could throw both out to punch with both arms. You also have the ability to do a headbutt. You could do a jump, and with the jump, you could do a dive kick if you're skilled enough, because holding down those shoulder buttons with each individual arm will allow you to grab onto things, and typically you'll use that to pick someone up and chuck them off the stage after you knock them out, because if you land a clean blow to the head, they will go unconscious. And with 4 people, that can get extremely chaotic. There are a good number of times when I know we've literally knocked each other out simultaneously, and it was just a matter of who can gain consciousness first to throw the other person off. And yeah, I don't know if it's because of the frame rate or what, but it just looks hilarious, but it's also just fun to mess around with. The controls are it's the opposite of controlling Samus, where Samus felt really tight and responsive.
Yeah.
The Gang Beast fellows feel loose and there's a little delay.
Badass you
but
will
not
not
that it
feel.
Feels
wacky and drunk you will
yeah,
feel.
And it's not a delay where it feels there's lag to it. It just feels you're really moving that weight around. If you pivot and turn directions, it feels you have to wait for the weight to recenter and then go the other way. But, if you practice the grabbing and jumping and releasing, you can literally climb anything pretty high too and pretty quickly. But it is very hard to do. But, the obstacles keep things fresh. There's a level where you're jumping from car to car. There's levels with what the people use to wash and clean windows on the side of buildings. There's ones with carousels. There's ones where you're in a meat grinding factory where if you're not careful, you could fall or get thrown into the grinder and just die there. Or another one where giant sausage-looking things just kind of fall down through the ground and open a vent and will just take you with them. And yeah, it's really fun to mess around with. It's just, yeah, I would say it's a go-to party game. It's obviously not as competitive, and I don't think it's trying to be, as something like Towerfall, where, I feel that one is all about the tightness of the controls and the precision, kind of getting back to how Metroid feels. But this one is kind of the opposite. This is the kind of game that I feel you get a lot of mileage out of when everyone's had a few drinks and you're just kind of messing around and just want to just kind of play something that will lighten up the mood without requiring a lot of thinking. Because you can just kind of button mash, hope to knock your opponent unconscious and pick them up and throw them off the stage. But just as easily, you can also, if you want, play very defensively and wait for opportune times to attack. But yeah, besides that mode, you also have, that's basically your King of the Hill mode. You also have teams. You could also play against waves of CPU opponents as a team and beat them up. And just try to survive as long as possible, which is also kind of neat. But I feel for the most part, most people will be playing in that free-for-all mode. Which, yeah, just happy that it's finally here. Just hope to play it more.
And it's definitely one of those games, at least when I remember when we played it at the Mix, that you embrace the wackiness. It's just funny because you were saying, you use the shoulder buttons to grab things. And it's just funny when you're trying to hold on for dear life on scaffolding that's falling apart or something, and someone's hitting you from below, and you're sort of flapping in the wind as this weird, bag of meat, essentially. It's just a ridiculous experience. Yeah. But it's fun. It has, I didn't notice until I was looking at, because full disclosure, we got a review code for it that Angel's been playing, and yeah, I was looking at the stuff, and I didn't realize, I assume they all have it. I never knew it had online play. That's kind of a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, at the time when I was playing it, it wasn't available because
pre-release.
Yeah, but definitely looking forward to checking that out. Though these kinds of games, because I mentioned, the controls are meant to be not super responsive, just to kind of add to the wackiness. It's not really the kind of game I feel I would have a lot of fun playing online. It's definitely the kind you want to play with friends. Mm-hmm. Unless, maybe playing with friends online. But this is at its peak, something you want to play in person with a group of people.
Yeah, all on one couch, old school multiplayer.
Yeah, so I don't know. So, good option to have, but personally, probably not the way I'm going to be playing it. But yeah, that's Gang Beasts in a nutshell. It's not that big of a game, but it's a fun party game.
And it can be yours for $30 on the eShop.
Yep, just glad that's finally on a Nintendo system.
Yep, it is, for record, a $10 premium over what it costs on other systems, but also you gain the portability and stuff. So it's and it's a new release here versus an old release there. So but worth noting.
Yep.
All right, so I guess with that, on to the news. And wow, my voice cracked on the news. And I think we're kind of going from beasts to animals, because the big story since our last episode was the Animal Crossing Direct and all that it entailed, the free updates, the paid updates, that manatee named Wardell with his little straw hat. Like, there was a lot in there. And fun tidbit, this is actually the closest Direct we're having to the 10-year anniversary mark of Nintendo Directs, which started on October 21st, 2011. So just a little piece of Nintendo trivia for you. But for the AC one specifically, for Animal Crossing in particular, I'd say, like, I don't know, I thought the sheer amount of content exceeded my expectations across the board. How do you guys feel about, everything they announced?
There was a lot of content added. I was just kind of hoping for more quality of life stuff, but there was no quality of life stuff added. It was just stuff.
No, wait, you can now access your storage from outside your home.
That didn't feel good enough.
Fair.
Yeah, if anything, I don't know. It felt like a feature. That felt like something that I never needed. Like, I want to be able to, let me craft multiple things at once, or like speed up the building process. Which on one hand, makes me appreciate the fact that some people put up with the process to build something amazing, but just don't got time for that. And, our time with the Surface limited and all that. And, it's kind of a shame.
Actually, there's another quality of life we didn't mention, the ordinances. Being able to shift, to address your point, being able to shift when your island's active.
I'll give them that.
Yeah.
That is the next thing
which, I mean, it's
finally from
brought right over from New Leaf, but still it's kind of nice. I mean, so I guess there's nothing that's going to make you necessarily jump back in, or Kevin, in your case, maybe get into Animal Crossing in the first place, because you've never really played it, right?
Absolutely not. Nope.
Yeah. And Angel, I assume you're not jumping back off this?
Maybe, but probably not too much.
I think on some level, I was kind of like, oh, okay. Like, it was a lot, like literally a lot, but what I found kind of interesting was just the way it mixed and matched ideas from past Animal Crossings to kind of like a best of feeling, but the way it did it, that didn't actually like fully bring over the idea. Like, let me explain what I mean. I think, like, for a while now, there's been this thought that New Horizons was kind of like a soft reset for the franchise, right? Like, I know we definitely discussed that possibility, like, in the game's peak last summer, how it added new stuff like crafting in the island, but in terms of progression, expansion of your, I guess, town now island, is a bit simplified. There's only one level of Nook Shop. There's certain shops and characters that were MIA. Interactions with villagers were a bit more limited, to encourage customization over socialization, et cetera, et cetera. Stuff like there were quality of life improvements that could be done, but it felt very like first pass at it, like you were saying. And they slowly kind of reintroduced some stuff over the past updates, but I feel like 2.0 is now giving a lot of that back, but in kind of this clever way where it's doing it without changing or without introducing any new mechanics per se. And granted, not everything's back. Even stuff like Nook Shop upgrades, which a lot of fans wanted, that's still not a thing and will never be a thing because this is the final update. But just this idea that they're able to add all this without actually changing anything, which I think is why, like, Kevin, you're like, nope, still not interested, and Angel, you're barely going to do it, is like, outside of maybe those motion control group exercises you can do with your islanders, which is a neat throwback to the very first Animal Crossing's morning workouts. Like, there's nothing actually fundamentally different in what they're providing. They're retrofitting all these past Animal Crossing ideas into existing gameplay mechanics, meaning that, in the future, should they release a full-fledged sequel, they can still embellish on these ideas and make them feel quote-unquote new again, just like how they did with New Super Mario Brothers and its sequel. And what I'm getting at is, like, there's a couple examples I can give you. One is probably Cap'n. He used to take you to a minigame island, which, had
I totally thought we were going to get it.
Yeah, and it had tropical fruits, and now they have flowers, so that's okay, kind of interchangeable. But more importantly, it was home to all those multiplayer competitions. And for New Horizons, he just takes you to islands, like similar to flying to a mystery island, except here the seasons may be different, and the time of day may be different. And again, there's those flowers now that are new. And I mean, I get it. Half the appeal of Cap'n is his quirkiness and his sea shanties and everything, which are making the cut. But in terms of, like, gameplay changers, it's not really there. They're just remixing existing elements. Similarly, if you look at like the Roost, like a lot of people are happy at Brewster back. It's Gray's there. And his new gameplay hook, it used to be that's where KK lived or visited, but his new gameplay hook is, you can bring in amiibo. But that amiibo, like villager summoning, is exactly what already existed, except instead of having someone come to your town and live there, you're having them come by and have a chat. Or like the gyroids, honestly. I love the fact that gyroids are back. I think they're one of the fun, more fun collectibles in Animal Crossing. They're super weird and quirky and make those funny noises. But like really, all Nintendo did by bringing it back is like, here's a new set of items, complete with the color customization, which for gyroids I think is new. But for everything else in the game, that's just another item to collect. Another good example is probably how they retrofitted Harvey's Island into what amounts to the town square from City Folk, which again, really cool. They're bringing back that concept. It gives you the flexibility to see various visiting NPCs on your own terms. Some of them are new, but Harriet's haircuts, we already have haircuts. There's just 11 more of them. Tortimer, besides being alive, which is nice, like he's just an expanded storage system that already exists, just another point of entry. The biggest addition may be Reese and Cyrus, who now customize furniture, but even that's just introducing new patterns and textures to existing, options. Like there's really nothing quote-unquote new in the free update. It's all kind of these past ideas squeezed into the structure and framework of the current game, which isn't bad per se. Like I think it's actually a really great varied update. And if you, combine that stuff with the dozen or so new villagers, the reintroduction of how villagers can now like visit your home, the ordinances we mentioned, the storage options we mentioned, the accent wall color, the daily newspaper in the Switch Online app, where now, kind of like with Pocket Camp with its monthly newsletter, they'll have whatever Isabel's going to tell you, presumably when you log into the game, now kind of summarized in the app for you. Like the new photo camera angle, like all that stuff, the DIY cooking, which, ultimately it's just another set of items, right? You craft a new type of item, veggies, and you turn into a new set of finished products. Yeah. So it's all there and it's all a lot. And it's cool if you're into Animal Crossing, but there's nothing there that changes anything you do gameplay-wise inside the game. It's all like flourishes on existing systems, if that makes sense. And the fact that they're able to do all that without changing any underlying gameplay whatsoever is kind of impressive. I mean, the fact that they add convenience, they add variety, they may get some people back into it, but they're not like they're basically leaving the door open for future gameplay augmentations, like not enhancements like these are, but like actual changes to gameplay, and they're saving all that for a premium offering. So I feel like even though they sort of gave us so much back, they did it in such a way that it still feels like this is kind of a soft reset of the franchise, which is a very interesting line to walk. I'm kind of impressed that they were able to walk it that well, or not well if you're expecting more. But yeah, it seems like the premium offerings are going to be where the meat and potatoes are for Animal Crossing's expansion and growth. Case in point, Happy Home Paradise, which when they announced this update, we knew there was free stuff. I don't think anyone expected them necessarily to have a paid DLC update, let alone one this big. But if, New Horizons 2.0 is leaning on combining the best of past entries, making a straight-up sequel to the 3DS's Happy Home Designers DLC is actually kind of a smart play. Like, I mean, did you guys ever play Happy Home Designer or know much about it?
I do know about it, but no, I never played it because it was like, that's not what I really want to play any kind of Animal Crossing for. Mm-hmm. So I like everything around that more. Right. Decorating is fun and all, but yeah,
that's
it wasn't for me.
Yeah, I assume Kevin. And Kevin, I assume you never even dabbled because you don't do Animal Crossing, so why would you do just a piece of it?
Nope.
Yep.
Correct.
Because the thing for me, it's similar to you, Angel, with Happy Home Designer. Like, I never necessarily played Animal Crossing because I love to sit there and redo my house. Like, if anything, I only expanded or improved the layout of my home because of the items or progress that happened outside the customization process. Like getting a gift from a villager, spending to expand Nook's shop, what have you. And sure, there'd be some stuff that like, I want to put that in my home and display, but like I wasn't that invested in that aspect of the game. So Happy Home Designer was missing kind of that crucial piece for me, which I guess selfishly is how does it relate back to me? Like I could be altruistic, I guess, and help people design their dream homes, whatever. And there's perhaps some intrinsic fun in the sort of open-ended puzzle solving of getting the highest home rating on this home you're building to spec for another character. But it felt like the gameplay loop wasn't fully closed. Like you couldn't send anything back you did to your own villager in your own new leaf at the time. I think the game only communicated with Amiibo Festival, and all it did was throw one of your custom homes in the back of one of the game boards, if I remember correctly. So it was like really like you did it. It was isolated in that spot. All the stuff you unlocked was kind of in that spot. It didn't feel like it connected to the broader experience. And I'll admit, like with New Horizons, I sort of changed my perspective about how much I care about customization, probably because the series itself sort of subtly shifted towards the direction of customization being more crucial. Like I'm into some of those mechanics now, but what really got me to be like, oh, Happy Home might be interesting as a concept is that in this second round as DLC, because it's DLC, they finished the gameplay loop. It connects back. Like as you work your way through Paradise and earn your separate currency, I think it's called like Pokey or something like that, that unlocks more unique furniture, more customization options like partition walls and whatnot, the ability to do lighting, the ability to do soundscapes, and all that is able to come back with you into the core New Horizons to use in your own home, around your island, outdoors, whatever you want really. And these are items that can like significantly change how you theme your island, what you do on your island. And as such, like it's impacting the core game. And, and the fact that it's integrated as DLC, so you just go to the airport and choose to visit the Acapulco where these Paradise Islands are, and you're still your character with your look and your connection to the main game, and it just like Paradise is like the missing puzzle piece that completes everything else in the 2.0 update in my mind. It's like that meaty new gameplay element that the other stuff wasn't. And granted, it's behind a premium wall of sorts, but it feels like the whole picture, and that's cool if you're willing to pay the price for it, which is kind of the hot question, right? Like I think if there's one thing that became a flashpoint from the Animal Crossing Direct, outside of a bunch of fans freaking out that the Froggy chair is back, which I guess good for them, it was differences of opinion on the value of everything. So to sort of set the stage here, there are two ways to get the Happy Home Paradise DLC. You can pay $25 and have it be downloaded for yours to keep like any other DLC, or you can receive it as part of the upcoming Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscription, which also comes with the N64 and Genesis games that Nintendo, announced a little while back. But if you choose that latter option, if you do it as part of the expansion pack, we now know it will be a yearly charge of $50 as an individual or $80 for a family plan that supports up to 8 people. Those have been a hot topic. How do you guys feel about that pricing scheme?
Initially I was like, I don't really see the value quite yet, just because I'm still kind of comparing it to what we used to get for free. Maybe not the best thing to do, but yeah, because 64 games. They do have online, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. It definitely feels like something that will get more value over time. Though, that being said, even though I'm not the most hyped for the Animal Crossing DLC, the fact that it was lumped in there caught me by surprise and almost gave it like this has the potential to have a lot of value, because for the most part we will still buy most of the flagship Nintendo games, which will most likely get DLC that will be lumped in here. Like I can't see Splatoon's,
presumably. That's the thing.
Like Octo expansion.
Presumably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like if the next Octo expansion equivalent comes to the service, which feels like it would, because it kind of Splatoon always seems to be getting DLC, and it seems like something that would fit there nicely if it's in that price range. Then yeah, this is fine. It also helps that I'm also in the family plan with like 7 of the people, so my price went from like $5 to $10
versus 20 to
per year,
50. Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, can't really complain.
Kevin, do you think you're gonna make the jump to expansion pack? Like, is there enough there for you?
God no! What a terrible value for those people that don't already have Animal Crossing, and B, even if they didn't include the Animal Crossing DLC in this for like everybody, I don't see how anybody can defend playing N64 games for $30 extra a month. Like, I don't understand what they were thinking with this pricing guide. I thought like at most $15 would be stretching it, but actually doubling the amount of money that I thought it was going to be is like, holy hell, what? Oh, baby,
more
Nintendo, what is you doing? Like, come on.
More than doubling, to be fair. Double and a half.
Yeah, exactly. It's I know maybe it was, they know that Animal Crossing sold a ton. So they're like, people, for $5 extra, you're going to get all these Genesis games and these N64 games. That'll make everybody happy. But like I said, to me, it's like, man, what a terrible value proposition. And something that I thought about was like, what if you don't get the expansion pack? Do you just lose access to the DLC?
Sort of. So
Like-
what they've confirmed is with the expansion pack, or with the DLC, if you do the expansion pack, you don't get to go back to the islands, the Paradise Islands, and see your customized homes, but anything you unlocked in Paradise that you brought back to your main game and your main island will stay with you. So you can't see, the things you did over there, but anything you did over there that affected over
really
here,
sucks.
you keep. It's interesting because,
That really sucks.
I honestly think where Nintendo flubbed a bit here is, like, the value being perceived by the core fans. Because, like, it does suck in a way, but if you look at it as someone that's more casually dabbling, like, I kind of see where Nintendo's coming from, because, like, games as services constantly change their content model now. Like, you still have, a mode, and then suddenly you don't have a mode, or you have a thing, and then, stuff comes and goes. All of which Mr. Old Man who yells at clouds and hates change, like, from a preservation standpoint, like, the pitfalls of that suck. But I get the idea, kind of, that you can have access to a side part of a game, and it goes away after a period of time, like they did with weddings in Animal Crossing, with the Maze Island, with in-game events. This is kind of an expansion on that, in a way, that games as services kind of already do. So if you're coming from a different perspective, like maybe being a lapsed person, or someone you're not going to play it for multiple years, like you played Animal Crossing, it kind of fell to the wayside, maybe you'll jump back in, or maybe you just play a bunch of games where already this sort of thing happens. It kind of feels less, it doesn't sting as much maybe, but because it's DLC and because it's available in like a premium purchasable, you keep it forever manner, if you choose to do it that way, that makes it feel weird. Like it so for some folks it's probably not seen as like a $50 fee to get a year of online and like this Animal Crossing content, and then on the sides this neat N64 Genesis game. For them it's like, oh, I'm buying this DLC that I don't get to keep, and I'm overpaying for this N64 game, and then I'm still having to pay for my Switch Online. So like it's like the framing almost, like, and I think that's where Nintendo flubbed, is they didn't appropriately account for every audience that will be impacted by this.
Yeah, irregardless, take away the Animal Crossing. Jesus, you have to be a super ultra Nintendo fan to justify dropping down $30 more for N64 games and Genesis games.
Although what's funny is I guarantee you, like, Nintendo did the cost-benefit analysis, and they know exactly how many fans are going to be like, oh, I hate this, and then still pull the trigger. Like, I'm seeing it like, oh, like, it's a flub. It comes out, by the time most people listen to this, it's out. It's out the 25th. That's Monday. I'm probably going to be buying it. And the Animal Crossing DLC isn't even available yet. Like, the fleeting DLC isn't even there to fleet. It's still, like, not out yet, but I'm still going to be buying it. Like, so they probably know that there's a subset that will be mad and upset, but there's a bunch that won't. The question is did they misjudge how big those groups are? And I think that's what we have to kind of wait and see. Because I saw so many people on Twitter that, like, are Nintendo fans I follow, and they're just like, oh, this is awful. And then, like, 2 minutes later, yeah, I'm still getting it. So, it's yeah.
You guys are part of the problem, but
we are.
You know what?
And I mean,
it's your money. Enjoy it. It's just not going to be for me. I'm not
right.
dropping $30
which is fair.
to do
I
this.
think the one savvy thing they did was they made it a separate purchase. They didn't like upcharge all the online functionality.
They didn't just force it on you. Yeah.
And I think to the cost benefit analysis thing, I think like there is a method to Nintendo's madness here, because I'm sure they've looked at those subsets of Switch audiences, and there's a huge crowd that this is going to be printing money for Nintendo. Like, let me bust out some numbers real quick, because I wrote these all down, because I was like, okay, there's some logic here for them. Not for us, necessarily, for them. Like, because as we know, as you said, Kevin, Animal Crossing, New Horizons has sold a ton of copies, just shy of, I think it was 34 million as of Nintendo's last financial report. And with that came a ton of Switches, and some of those people may still play daily, some may have a lot of other games, but I would bet you there's a decent chunk of those people, even if perhaps still using their Switches from time to time, who didn't keep those Switch Online subscriptions going from the peak of the pandemic. Like, we know as of June, the total subscriber count for the service was 26 million, I think. 26 million. Okay, need to check my notes. Even if we make the incorrect overestimation that everyone who is paying for Switch Online also bought Animal Crossing, that's at minimum 8 million people who aren't subscribers that maybe this could appeal to. We also know that there continue to be new people entering into the world of Animal Crossing. Like, if you look at Nintendo's financials, this past quarter, is another 1.26 million copies sold, which obviously isn't the tens of millions we saw in a quarter during the peak of Animal Crossing, but still a million seller every single quarter. I mean, for as long as I can remember, I think literally every month since it's been released, Animal Crossing has been sitting in the top 20 of North American game sales, with Switch being in the top hardware spot. Even this past month, actually, interestingly, NPD put out their September numbers last week, and it was the first time in 33 straight months that the Switch wasn't the top-selling hardware, which is something I could wax on about in a whole nother conversation about the reasons for, waiting for the OLED model, PS5 inventory picking up, bigger releases happening on other consoles. I mean, this was the first time that I could recall that there wasn't a single Switch exclusive in the top 10 chart overall, never mind, Switch not being number one. But, it was still sitting pretty in the top 20 was Animal Crossing. It was at spot number 18. That was only 3 spots behind a new release, WarioWare Get It Together. And WarioWare Get It Together was the strongest debut of any entry in the series since the Wii Smooth Moves. It's like it's still, even, on the lower half of the top 20, still bringing in a ton of money and a ton of new players that this could maybe appeal to. And then historically, we also know that Animal Crossing numbers are going to go up going into the holiday because the 2.0 update is going to give the game a push for sure. Most notably, like the DLC, we've seen this playbook before where if they put a big content update out, it boosts the game. Pokemon Sword and Shield's like the go-to example. The expansion pass came out a year after the game last holiday, and it boosted sales of the game nearly double from its previous quarter, and it became a million seller again. And, Pokemon was in a much lower position pre-DLC than Animal Crossing now is. So besides me sneaking in a Jason Sales corner here, which I'm very proud I managed to shove in there, what I'm getting at here is that
don't think that we didn't catch you.
Oh, I know. I just didn't announce it up front. But what I'm getting at here is that all these audiences, this kind of almost makes sense for the exact reason that you guys were saying, where it's like, oh, it's $5 more than if I was just getting the DLC and renewing my Switch Online subscription. Like, you have folks who are coming back to Animal Crossing, but they let the subscription lapse. You have folks who continuing to buy the game as stay clip and maybe now are first getting online. You have folks who are going to be buying it this holiday and maybe first getting online. And for all those literally millions of people, potentially, it is actually a really good deal because you get the DLC you wanted, you get the subscription to play online with your friends, and then for $5 more, you have all these 90s games while we're here in the peak of 90s nostalgia in our culture right now. So, it makes sense from that perspective. It's just like we were kind of saying, for the fans who have half of this already, maybe it's a bit more of a flub. And I don't know, I think what it is in part is also that for us, because we understand how DLC works, it's weird. This year, it's a good deal, right? Year one, $25 plus $20 plus a bonus $5 for all those games. That makes sense. But when you get to year two and you're paying $25 again for DLC, because right now we don't know if Nintendo's going to add more DLC in the future if it's just Animal Crossing, then there's maybe a losing proposition there. Then it gets a little weird. And I think it's that value, weighing that value, and Nintendo not being forthcoming about what that value will become. That is maybe partly the pitfall. I don't know if I even entirely blame Nintendo for how the value is being perceived. I do think a large portion of it is on them. Because, Switch Online grew into something because it had Tetris 99, Mario 35, Pac-Man 99, the physical controllers you can get, those ever-increasing free game trial weeks where they just did Jackbox Party Pack 8 here in the U.S. last week, and I think Japan had World Ends With You or something. But they're doing more than they did day one. So the $20 that we're paying now does get you a decent clip more. Maybe it's missing some key functionality, but got you definitely more now than it did when we all subscribed year one. Theoretically, like Angel, you were saying, theoretically, they could be adding more DLC and we could kind of grow into the $50. Or maybe one of our friends on Twitter had a great idea of take Wii Sports Club from the Wii U, drop the in-game purchases, make it part of expansion pack only. There's another, kind of cool way to justify the cost. But since Nintendo isn't saying anything and they're launching it Monday, it's kind of hard to say. And I think that hurts their perceived, the value proposition they're presenting. But I think even to your point, kind of about from my perspective anyway, about N64 games aren't worth the price. There's also on some level this thing happening, and I don't know how I necessarily feel about it, where there's this gaming in general seems to have this thought that if something is old, it's worth significantly less. And on some level, yes, it's emulated. They didn't build it from scratch. They did some netcode, okay, to get 4-player working online. They in Europe they got up to 60 hertz after PAL's notorious 50 hertz. So cool for Europeans. There's licensing that we shouldn't have to worry about, like Sega Genesis games apparently are quite a pretty penny, both for first and third party. That's according to insiders like Emily Rogers saying Nintendo, like Sega was unhappy with how the Virtual Console was in terms of the revenue share. They demanded a lot more. That's also feeding into the price. Now, that's necessarily our concern, but the idea that these games that are so big or so, these games have hours of gameplay. The idea that and this is a gaming thing in general, the idea that as a game gets older, it automatically just loses value because some people have played it. Mario 64 is still Mario 64. It's still big. Ocarina is still Ocarina. It's still big. But because it's been out for X number of years, it has to lose X amount of dollar value. These things were $50 or $60 back in the day. Now you're getting all of them together for $30. If you sold that as a compilation, that would seem like a good deal. But because it's now older even, it comes off as cheap. Or not cheap, expensive when it should be cheap. I don't know. It's this weird, I don't get it. I feel like movies don't go through this in the same way. You could release a Criterion collection and it'd be priced premium even if the movie's 20 years old. And people don't really bat an eye. And they didn't change the movie. They just gave it a nicer box. So, I don't know. It's a weird gaming thing. But I think that's partly what's going on here. Because it's 30 games. So technically that's $1 a game for the price jump. And yet it feels not of value, It's a weird thing. And this isn't exclusive to Switch Online either. I'm talking about things like what happened with Grand Theft Auto, the Trilogy, this past week. So we got our first real details and footage on Friday. And while a lot of people seemed on board, there was a group being this is $60. That's way too much. Which, okay, if you look at it from a perspective of you can get it for free on Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Now, yes, it is kind of asking a lot for $60 when it's literally free right over there. But if you're talking about the idea of wanting to own a physical copy or having it on Switch in any capacity, is $60 that much for 3 massive GTAs with a ton of content, updated visuals, new controls from GTA 5 for aiming, and on Switch in particular, gyro aiming and touchscreen map interaction? It seems like $20 for each of those 3 is totally reasonable, but a bunch of people are oh, they're old. It should be $20 total. Am I missing something here? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's still a lot of content.
Nope, you are absolutely right. That is way more. The yum to buck ratio in terms of game here is insane. You have
beautiful callback.
Three of the most critically acclaimed open world games of all time, influential of all time. They're like you said, all the updates. No, $60 is actually cheaper than they actually should be selling it at, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, right? And I just feel obviously the N64 games in an online subscription are a different ball game to some degree, but I feel the mentality that drives people to think that GTA is a ripoff further fuels stuff like the Switch Online price hike being so controversial. Because there's a lot in there, especially when you think about that you now have all these games you can play online for the first time ever. It just seems.
Maybe I was a little bit hyperbolic with they should charge more than $60, but $60 is an absolutely fair price.
Right.
Let me just go back on my word there.
I'm picturing it should be easily $150 per package. They should upsell it. Yeah, no, but I don't know. It just seems like gaming in general has this thing, and that I think is a lot of what drove the general knee jerk to Switch Online's price hike. Because Kevin, you had legit reasons. You don't care about Animal Crossing. Maybe those games aren't appealing to you specifically like the N64 ones, but in terms of yum to buck, you get a lot of stuff at that price on raw hours of gameplay. There's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
people, and just speaking to one of the games, people love San Andreas. Absolutely love San Andreas, and updated San Andreas. It's not a full top to bottom remake. But the changes in there are enough to warrant San Andreas being a $30 purchase, in my opinion, by itself. And the fact that you're getting 3 games for $60, so $20 a pop, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I don't get, I don't know. Let me ask you this. Knowing what we now know about the GTA collection, because we talked about it when it was first announced, and we're all kind of maybe. Is there enough new to actually get you to, double dip?
I'm sorry, it's for me to double dip?
Yeah, because you played all these before, right? The old GTAs?
I've played them, but the Grand Theft Auto games aren't necessarily for me, so I'm not going to purchase this. I think that there's more than enough for other people to absolutely double dip. The GTA's 3, what is Vice City, San Andreas, and 4 always handled like absolute crap, and just having like updated controls, fantastic. So, I like, yeah, that. I guess I understand some of the frustration because, like you said, these are all old games, and yeah, they probably can run on one of the new iPads without a problem. And so, I think that's maybe why people see this and they say, if it can run on an iPad, the game should be like $5.
Which is,
like,
yeah, and that was the race to the bottom that the App Store caused. That now is like, this is like the ripple effect. Because, like, in terms of, even on the App Store, like, those games are more than, they give you a lot of yum to buck. There's a lot of content in some of those games, and yet it's $5. So now anything, that was valued, like, N64 games were literally $55, $60 back in the day. So now getting all of them at 50 seems absurd because you can get, like, a crazy, like, lengthy game on your iPhone for, like, $1. And on some level, obviously people need to compete with that. But also, like, man, the industry screwed itself over by doing that, Like, that was very short-sighted. Because now the overall perceived value of everything is just dropped like a rock. And it's good, in a way it's good for us because that means things generally should be and are cheaper. But, like, for an industry, like, when they try and keep the value somewhat relatable to what they once were, or, in the case of GTA, triple your value, it's still too much, which is just crazy. I mean, it's the same deal that happened with the remakes for Advance Wars, which, like, funny enough, the day they announced GTA is coming in 3 weeks on November 7th or November 11th or December 7th if you want physical, Nintendo also announced that this other compilation of old games that people were like, the price is being delayed. So it's not coming December 3rd anymore. It's now coming spring, whatever that means. But it was the same deal because, like, do you remember back in the GBA days, like, Game Boy Advance games were $35. So literally, just by bringing over Advance Wars 1 plus 2 together in one compilation, it is $10 cheaper for the exact same amount of content as it was back then. But I remember when it was announced, people were like, this doesn't look different enough. The scenarios are the same. Like, okay, they add online, but, like, it's the same game. They're charging a full price. Like, why isn't it 40 or 50? It's like, literally, it is a $10 savings if you would have bought them by yourself or by themselves individually on a different system. Like, it's just so strange to me how people do I don't know. I feel like I'm just ranting, but I don't know. I will say, though, this is the first time Nintendo's delayed a hard-dated game in a long time, since, like, Tropical Freeze, maybe? Like, they will give vague dates. They'll say, like, 2022, okay, never mind, 2023. But they don't usually go December 3rd, just kidding, see you anytime from March 20th to June 21st of next year. Like, that's a big delay, in a way, for Nintendo to do. But it is weird because I'm actually kind of, like, glad. Like, I'd rather have the game sooner, but I don't know how you guys feel about this, but, like, I feel like since this is them reviving an old IP and sort of testing the waters to see if it has a future, like, the fact that they want to give it the extra time gives me confidence that they want to turn Advance Wars into something bigger. Like, because, even at E3, like, looking at the trailer, it looked a little rough around the edges, and not bad. Like, I have faith in WayForward to pull it off, just like, it could use some more time in the oven. So Nintendo choosing to do that and, as they called it, fine-tune it versus just trying to get it out for the holidays, it seems like they're trying to make Advance Wars into something again, which is really cool as a fan of the series. So I actually don't mind this delay whatsoever. And if you need a Nintendo game on December 3rd, Big Brain Academy is still coming out that day. But, it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. Again, another game where people are like, it's not worth it when it seems to totally be. I don't know. It's either they delayed it because they're fixing it, or they delayed it because they're remaking every aspect of Advance Wars, right down to the fact that the last minute the original one was delayed everywhere outside the U.S. I don't know if you remember this, guys, but Advance Wars came out on 9/11 in the U.S. in 2001. And then right when it came out, Nintendo's like, this is awkward. So they delayed the international launches because a war game right after 9/11 was a little dicey. So now they're just, I guess, recreating that disappointment with the remake. They're remaking the disappointment of the game being delayed. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on anything else. That's all I've got about this, about
unfortunately,
everything.
Not too much, since Advance Wars, it wasn't really for me. So I just saw this remake as like, that's cool for the fans. So, no harm, no foul on my end. And, like I always say, delays are always welcome. Gives you more time to catch up on other stuff. But
that's true.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not even like Nintendo doesn't have a release in December. They still, on that same day, at Big Brain Academy. So if you need a fixing
If
for a
anything,
new
it sounds
game
like
in
it's for the
December,
best.
in a way, it might be. Yeah. But yeah, I think we're just about out of topics. I mean, first of all, there's no way to segue out of a 9/11 reference. So, and secondly, I feel like every few episodes that we talk about Grand Theft Auto, it's always within the last couple topics of the episode. So since we already evoked Grand Theft Auto and 9/11, I don't know where we go from here. I think we're done. Is there anything else you guys want? Is there anything you guys wanted to talk about?
No, I think we are all Gucci on this front.
Yeah, okay. So in that case, I guess we'll be back in 2 weeks' time on November 7th with some more games and news and thoughts to share with you guys. I know I at least plan to talk about Tetris Effect, which is gorgeous on the Switch OLED screen, but we'll save that for then. But, see what else we have cooking. You have to tune in.
Mario Party, baby. Does Mario Party come out in 5 days?
That's right. It's out this Friday. So yeah, I guess we'll have Mario Party as well. We can all play it online and
we have to do our drunk Mario Party at some point, dude.
Yeah. Dude, those rules. You're gonna have to. Next episode when we talk about Mario Party, we need to walk through what your rules entail because it's madness. Yeah.
I've had these rules saved on my iPhone for the last 5 years, I think. Yeah.
So we'll put it to the test and share our impressions and hopefully be not hungover when we have to talk about it. But yeah, it's intense. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. And to make sure you don't miss that, subscribe to us on all the podcast apps, whichever you use, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube, RamNintendo.com is the channel name. We're also on Twitter at RamNintendo. You can follow us there to make sure you don't miss it. And if you keep your eyes and ears peeled, you will also catch hopefully our next Random Non-Tendo, which is our show for everything not Nintendo. I'm hoping back in action next weekend, but I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so there's a lot of content coming everyone's way. And that's how you can make sure you don't miss it. You can follow us individually too. I'm JSR7. Angel is Wero, WEIRO_O. Kevin is KVN Gomi. I think that's all the housekeeping. So, Kevin, final word?
I was going to do something very inappropriate, so let's just end it there.